Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. This is Mary Esther Miranda Gilbert, the founder of the True Health Master Institute of Holistic Personal Health Management. Tonight, I will be talking about the company called Apeel Sciences, who has produced maybe 3 different versions of the coatings that are on your fresh produce. So some of them are organic foods and some of them are not. And the product is called Apeel, A-P-E-E-L. I will take you through the scientific research and the company itself's assertions and how they have been verified through so many different agencies whose job is to make sure that products are safe for consumers. And I'm going to take you through some of the science that they put out and was verified as valid. Sometimes it's not a good idea to believe a company's word on something, right? So it has to be completely verified scientifically. And so that's what this company tried to do. But there's variations on their product line, and over time, they seem to have gotten rid of their toxic products and just created a product that's supposed to be all natural, food-derived coatings. So I will go into the specifics right now for you. So Apeel, it's the coating that's applied on your fresh fruits and vegetables, even some of the berries. And is it toxic or safe to eat? So that's the question that I put out there, and dug into that scientific literature to see what I could find. So it ended up being that there's a natural version, so-called natural version, versus the synthetic version. So I'll take you through the timeline of how this happened. All right, so what is Apeel? And notice in quotes, that's when I'm talking about the product itself. So it's an edible food technology that's been developed by a company founded in 2012 called Apeel Sciences. So as I go through this, try not to get those 2 terms confused. One of them is the name of the company and the other one is the name of the product, okay? So, and this was the original product, by the way. So they created a protective edible coating that they applied on fruits and vegetables just for the purpose of extending their lifespan, their shelf life. And supposedly it increases their shelf life up to twice as long. So their original Apeel formulations manufacturing process used solvents and a catalyst. And also their second product, Organipeel, was developed and approved by the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, for use on organic produce, but it's no longer manufactured. So apparently, from what I could gather, there was an outcry and a distrust from the consumers. Okay, so I'll read on. Retailers and consumers have raised concerns about a possible lack of transparency regarding the full list of ingredients in the original products, and that includes the products Apeel and Organipeel, okay? Many consumers have opted to avoid it, choosing instead growers and grocers that state they do not offer produce coated with these products, okay? So we're taking their word for it, supposedly, and I'll read on. The coatings that have been produced by Apeel Sciences were not and are not pesticides, just so everybody knows that there are pesticides that are being sprayed on some of these fruits and vegetables that you can actually see, that you see a white film on them, right? And so that's completely different. The Apeel coating supposedly is just only as an additive to protect the skin so that it doesn't deteriorate, and also supposedly to maintain the nutritional value of the produce. Okay. So that's not my conclusion, by the way. The coatings that have been produced by Apeel Sciences are not pesticides. However, the FDA considered it as such because it has antifungal properties. Okay, now pesticides are generally known to not wash off easily at all. Pesticides are systemic in the produce and are not only on their surface. Therefore, peeling them does not prevent pesticide ingestion. That is a fact that I dug up years and years ago when I was in college, and I did scientific papers on this very subject. So I know it pretty well, and it still stands true today. It has not changed. That position has not been changed. To date, no assertions have been made that Apeel might help protect and maintain a food's nutrient density. And again, that makes sense to me because when you have a fruit and you have the skin that supposedly protects the fruit's nutrients, right? The organic foods, by the way, last a lot longer because they have so many more protective nutrients inside the plant itself, inside the fruit, vegetable, or nut, or seed, or berry, right? So the skin is very, very important. So there's no scientific research that I've been able to turn up that maintain that this stuff will maintain the nutrients inside the food. It may not deteriorate properly. I say properly because foods they do have a timeline. They do start deteriorating after a while. That's the natural enzyme action. That's the cycle of life, right? But so far, there hasn't been any definitive scientific research showing that it maintains their nutrient density. So the company Apeel Sciences has since changed their manufacturing process in favor of a different coating they call Edipeel. And this is the third product that they have produced. So Edipeel, they say, is composed of naturally occurring plant fatty acids, the plants that contain fats, the healthy fats. And these are the Edipeel fatty acids that are reduced in their processes the same way our digestive system reduces fats. So these simple fats are called monoglycerides and diglycerides, which are on par with international standards of food safety because they are foods, right? So a lot of companies have been using these two simpler broken down fats from whole food fats in various products over many, many years. So there's never been any problem with these kinds of simpler fatty acids, less complex fatty acids. So to define a fatty acid is not in itself a fat necessarily. When you ingest an animal fat or a plant oil, those are fats and oils. But when you digest them, they start breaking down and they form fatty acids. Okay, so it's not quite a whole fat. It's already been broken down a bit. After esterification, it becomes fat. So when your body is wanting to put together molecules to form a fat, then that's called esterification. Glyceride is the backbone of fat and oil. When you look at something molecularly speaking, and this is a pretty simplified, schematic of these different simple fatty acid molecules. So the one on the left here is a monoglyceride, right? So, and then you have, because of this extension here of oxygen and carbon, the double bonds there, and then the other extensions of, this molecule, then because it protrudes outward like this from the backbone on the left, then that's called a monoglyceride. And then on the middle, we've got a diglyceride, which is two of these extensions out there, and a triglyceride, which is what our bodies have. And sometimes our triglycerides can get elevated. And of course, they're going to be converted to body fat very easily from that simpler fat. But so the mono and the diglycerides are what we're talking about here in this Edipeel formulation. They did not use the triglycerides. Okay, so Edipeel is approved for use on a range of produce in the United States, Canada, and many European countries. It's actually approved by the government agencies. Apeel Sciences states that Edipeel coating can easily be removed by washing produce under warm running water and scrubbing lightly with hands or a vegetable brush. So this is their claim. This is a company, a corporation's claim. All right, so I'm not sure if you'll end up trusting them as soon as I give you more information about this. You'll have to decide on your own, what you make of all of this. So the company itself, Apeel Sciences, they violated the use. They used it in an illegal way. Okay, so according to the Organic Consumers Association, the OSA, they announced that the Organic Materials Review Institute, the OMRI, stated that Apeel's Organipeel produce coating is not allowed on organic produce. So now we're referring back to the second formulation, Organipeel. Okay, so when they were using that, then they admitted, yeah, we're not using it according to the specified recommendations, right, or the specified use that it was created for. So the organic peel product is not OMRI listed for use as a fruit coating. So they were coating these produce but they weren't supposed to use this particular version, Organipeel, on this produce. They said it's being used illegally as a fruit coating since it is listed as a post-harvest handling material. Okay, so after you harvest, I guess they spray things either with more pesticides or maybe Organipeel. So this kind of post-harvest preserving of the fresh produce so that they travel well and get to the grocery stores before they become damaged, kind of thing. So that's a whole nother, perspective on how they handle this. So since non-organic ingredients are not to be used in organic produce, and this is a non-organic ingredient, even though it's called Organipeel, which is very deceiving, they are not approved as a fruit coating if their primary use is as a preservative. Okay, so if it's a coating that has been allowed, as in the Edipeel, then it's used as a preservative, right? Okay, so the company right away, one demerit, they just used it wrong. They used their formulations in a way that wasn't approved, right? Okay, so concerns of Apeel's production through synthetic biology technology. I didn't do a spell check because my computer doesn't know all of these scientific terms. That's why you see them underlined in red, but that will be remedied. Anyway, concerns the organic OSA. I think it's I meant to say OCA. I need to make that correction. It's not OSA, it's OCA. So the Organic Consumers Association, the OCA, has about the Apeel product is that it is being produced using synthetic biology, a new and extreme form of engineering, even though the company states the coating is composed entirely of monoglycerides and diglycerides. Now, here's where the synthetic comes in. There are synthetically derived monoglycerides and diglycerides by different processes that I'll show you in a moment. So that's what's concerned the Organic Consumers Association. This is a consumer association that I've been a member of for many, many years. They've been around for 30 years or longer, and they've always, bird dogged all these kinds of violations. So although the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, has the Apeel products listed as generally recognized as safe, so anybody who's looked up anything with the FDA, that GRAS, G-R-A-S indication is supposed to make you trust something and take their word for it that it's not toxic. That's been disproven in so much of the research that I've done, by the way. Maybe not necessarily for the Edipeel product, but we'll see what you think. The industrial process used to extract acylglycerides. Now, it's different than the monoglyceride. This is a different molecule. And so the FDA loves to, and the other organizations, the consumer, so-called consumer organizations of other countries, they have arrived at these numbering systems. And you can't tell by looking at their numbers if they are synthetic or naturally food derived. Okay, so the E471 is questionable, just like your food colorings and your flavorings. So they all have the same numbers, but some of them are synthetics and some of them are naturally food derived. So you have to know this. Okay, so the industrial process used to extract the monoacylglycerides from grapeseed leaves, residues of known toxins, ethyl acetate, heptane, palladium, arsenic, lead, cadmium, and mercury. Now, these are toxic compounds that are present in plants in extremely minute amounts, but the atomic structure is so that these are not harmful. But if they're elemental and they're found in the earth, they've already broken down and become elements. That's when they are the most lethal to our health. Okay, so they say that they're extracting this version of a fatty acid, breakdown of a fatty acid from grape seeds. Let's go on. A European Food Safety Authority's review of monoacylglycerides noted the potential exposure to those toxic elements could mean substantial harm to one's health. And this is other countries. They have banned so many of the toxins and synthetics that the U.S. still puts in our products. And that's why I'm trusting them. And that's why I'm putting this in this report. So the European Food Safety Authority said that, there's a potential exposure to toxic elements. All right, so now another EFSA review warned of monoacylglycerides, possibly containing the carcinogenic compound glycidol. Okay, and monoacylglycerides are one of other environmental compounds linked to diabetes due to their capacity to increase insulin secretion from the pancreas, even when there is not a high blood sugar condition. So they cause high blood sugar conditions when it would otherwise be, not a high blood sugar condition. Yet the Office of Food Additive Safety Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition and Drug Administration issued an official notice establishing Apeel as GRAS, or generally recognized as safe. So, like I said, the GRAS is not a trustworthy distinction. So here's the European safe use analysis, which we can trust. The Apeel Sciences company applied to Scotland's Food Standards Agency for safety assessment in the use of mono and diglycerides of fatty acids on produce. Okay, so we're back to the mono and diglycerides, not the other. Gosh, those are mouthful. Monoacylglycerides. So that little acyl, syllable in the middle makes a huge difference. All right, so we're talking about now the fatty acids that are broken down naturally into these two types of glycerides, right? Okay, so the intent of use of these simple fatty acids was to form the product Edipeel, a lipid-based layer on the fruit, lipid meaning fats, on the fruit to extend quality and shelf life to be used in effective amounts, or quantum satis, which means as much as we need to in order to make it effective. That's what quantum satis, the Latin term quantum satis, means. So the tested film thicknesses were between 330 nanometers and 1.3 microns after deposition. And they looked at these under the microscope and they were able to measure just how much coating there was on these products. So the proposed use included entire fruits and vegetables, all fruits and vegetables, in other words, and they also were asking to have permission to apply it on these fruits and berries. Passion fruit, kiwi, apples, pears, peaches, nectarines, plums, berries like the cherries, strawberries, and blueberries, cucumbers, asparagus, tomatoes, and peppers. So they wanted to know if they could legally apply the Edipeel to these products or fresh produce. Other agencies contributed their risk assessments and concluded in agreement that the Edipeel formulation's mono and diglyceride fatty acids were safe under the proposed conditions of use. And that's another little trick that sometimes, these organizations, government organizations, will slip under you. They'll say it's safe under the proposed conditions of use. Now, as we saw with the Apeel Sciences company, they weren't using it properly. So that can cause problems too. And who knows what variations they're going to be using, but they were also using the other two formulations. So, we have to keep that in mind as well. So in other words, additives, enzymes, and other regulated products, according to the Joint Expert Group and the Committee on Toxicity, just considered the fact that, okay, so they're using the simplified fats, the mono and diglycerides. So they were considering that, So the Apeel Sciences company stated that it commercially sources or manufactures the E471 mono and diglyceride coatings in-house. So that process, what is that process, right? Is it synthetic? Or, because nothing here says that it's organic. The FDA organic laws are extremely specific as to what goes into the production of organic foods. And if it's organically labeled, then, and if these are synthetic, they're not going to be allowed, right? Okay, but we're still in what the Europeans, all these organizations that I'm labeling here, they're all European ones, government, consumer advocate, so-called organizations in Europe. Okay, so the manufacturing process, now it includes heating vegetable oils or animal fats with excess glycerol. That's just a natural fatty acid alcohol that occurs during digestion, Glycerol is the main component of triglycerides, the type of fat that's in the body. So glycerol is found in animal fat, vegetable oil, or crude oil. So there's different variations of this molecule, and you can't believe any company that says, well, this glycerol molecule is the same as the fat or vegetable oil, not if they made it out of crude oil. It's not edible. It's not good. It's very health hazardous, right? It's not digestible. It's toxic. Okay, so glycerol is a glycerol, not, right? So glycerol is derived from soap or from biodiesel production. Okay, so people who maybe use fried oils and turn them into biodiesel. There's a glycerol component in those mixtures as well. Okay, so now by direct esterification of glycerol with fatty acids. So this is another manufacturing process. It's a fundamental process for creating a wide range of products such as fragrances, plastics, margarine, which is a plant plastic, and biodiesel fuel. Okay, so that process can be done with a food like animal fat or vegetable oil, or it can be done with all these other synthetics. So also another manufacturing process, the European Commission considers revising the European specifications for mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, or the AKA E471, including maximum limits for trans fatty acids, because mono and diglycerides of fatty acids can be manufactured by glycerolysis of hydrogenated fats or oils. So you hydrogenate a perfectly healthy oil, you form a plasticized fat, and that's glycerolysis, okay, which contains significant amounts of health-damaging trans fatty acids. Now, I've taught a lot about the subject on trans fatty acids and how damaging they are to your health. Okay, so again, if they're talking about mono and diglycerides, we could be talking about something synthetic as much as we could be talking about something that's food-derived. So we need to find out what manufacturing process was used on Edipeel, right? So where solvents are required in the production process, only food-grade solvents are used. So a solvent could be anything like something that will help dissolve something, right? Water could be a solvent. So there's just different types of natural solvents. So food grade, as established by the Food Chemicals Code, Codex, or JECFA. So this is another European, entity here, government entity. So now they're talking about another thing about the manufacturing process. Let's see, where am I here? So, okay, I don't think I read this yet. The completed coating formulations can be entirely comprised of mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, whether produced by Apeel Sciences or commercially sourced. Regardless, all final formulations must meet specifications for I put pound. Yeah, it's E471, sorry. Another typo here. I'm going to correct that right now. But so within the US, this very vague E471 generally recognized as safe to eat as an additive under Title 21 US Code of Federal Regulations. So our federal regulations where food is concerned has been very corrupted. And so that's why I don't trust it. Consumers they can't trust anything anymore. What can you trust, right? All we can do is dig for information. And I don't recommend experimenting on your health. There's plenty of other things that I've recorded videos on that are so health damaging with consumer products. Heck, last week I did one on the poisons in your toothpaste, and it goes on and on. So please look at my other videos, everyone, because you want to protect your health. These organizations have not been our friend. And I understand that things are being cleaned out and maybe it will start improving. But I've been fighting for this for 45 years, over 45 years. And I just want to get the truth out to everyone before it's too late. People are very sick. And all the things that I've been teaching on my channel and writing about for years, this is the way to detoxify gradually and safely and sensibly and replace everything that has damaged your body with the proper nutrients. It happens at the molecular level. So also within the United States, E471 it can be used in food for various purposes. Like I said earlier, it's been used as a emulsifier and all these other reasons that they put these two fatty acids in there. It can be used as a surface finishing agent at levels according to good manufacturing process. Finishing agent, what is that going to make the product look good? I mean, what's the finishing agent, right? It could be anything. It could be at the end of a production process to affect the consistency of a product, like, I don't know, peanut butter or something, right? So during the risk assessment process, Apeel Sciences provided their own biological and toxicological data on E471. Of course, are they going to tell on themselves? Are they going to say something bad about their corporation? I don't think so. The reevaluation of mono and diglycerides from fatty acids included reviewing many studies including the short and subchronic toxicity studies, chronic and carcinogenic or cancer-causing toxicity studies, reproductive and developmental toxicity studies. Okay, so supposedly this company did their own research on these very subjects, which is not what I advocate at all. You have to have a completely, neutral group of scientists that conduct these studies to see what the outcome is when they apply these, in this case, the mono and diglycerides, which they did. I'm getting to that shortly. Okay, so short-term and subchronic toxicity studies were conducted on animal subjects who were given E471 for weeks and up to 2 years. So again, this is in-house study, not an objective peer-reviewed study. So they said that rats and hamsters were examined for clinical pathology, ophthalmic, the eyesight, and macroscopic and microscopic effects from high doses. So this is sometimes what the scientific community used to do a lot more. They don't do so much anymore. They would just inundate these poor animals with the so-called substance they were studying and see what toxic effects came of it, right? So this is what this company did. The in vitro, the laboratory, studies where they grow cultures, cell cultures, and they examine the reactions to all these stimuli that they apply to these cell cultures, right? That's called in vitro. And in vivo, meaning live subjects, it could be animals or humans. In this case, it was animals, at least I hope. They assessed any mutagenicity, were there any mutations in their chromosomes, any chromosomal aberrations, and an in vivo bone marrow micronucleus test for any adverse and here's that diacylglycerol effect. So they were testing the diacylglycerol. But they were supposed to be analyzing their mono and diglycerides, right? So they didn't specify which. They went back and forth in mentioning one or the other. So that's another confusing and very discrediting thing that they were doing. The EFSA panel considered that the diacylglycerol levels tested in these studies were not of genotoxic concern, showing no signs of systemic toxicity. That means neoplastic or abnormal growth of cells. They didn't find any problems there. Again, are you going to believe totally, blindly, trust a company who is just guiding the outcome, right? And a lot of these government organizations have been known to cover up things like this. This information is not something new. If you do a lot of digging like I have, you'll see that that's a pattern. A 2-generation reproduction toxicity study and a prenatal developmental toxicity study in rats fed a diet containing diacylglycerol oil resulted in no parental, reproductive, or developmental negative effects. Again, that has to be proven by a peer-reviewed scientific study. The AEJEG was satisfied with the safety results of extensive testing of animal subjects having been given extremely high doses of E471 for many months. Okay, that is a red flag. Anytime you have too much of even a good nutrient, there's going to be some negative side effects. Okay, in the conclusions of the various studies that have been conducted on the E471 product consisting of mono and diglycerides, the applicant, which is Apeel Sciences, stated, quote, in accordance with the current authorizations, proposed use level, and publicly available scientific literature about mono and diglycerides fatty acids, E471, it can be established that the extension of use as a surface treatment on additional entire fresh fruits and vegetables, specifically what they requested, right, all these here listed, and what they were already using it on, such as cucumbers, asparagus, tomatoes, and peppers, is safe. That was the company's conclusion. They don't present any substantial statistics or laboratory results in these studies. So you don't really see what they actually came up with. This is just their word. The E471 is currently authorized in 84 food categories in the European and UK. So in this citation, it's a food magazine or food journal. And so that was a scientific journal that this was pulled from. And of course, they must be talking about the naturally derived fats that have been, just broken down into the mono and diglycerides, the food-derived ones, the non-toxic, the non-synthetic ones. So there needs to be more studies to continue to verify that the food-derived mono and diglycerides are indeed safe to eat. Because when we break down our fats in our bodies, they turn into the triglycerides and the mono and the diglycerides, as you saw in the schematic, diagram up there. So in the US, E471 is authorized for use as an emulsifier, stabilizer, crumb softener, preventing staling, becoming stale, in baked goods, dairy and frozen desserts, spreads and fats, dressings, infant formulas, snacks, pasta, jams, jellies, chocolate candies, and creams. Now, with all of these consumer products, I would just call every single one of these companies that you buy from and ask them specifically, are these food-derived glycerides in these products, or are they synthetics? And just see what they say, you know. Then there's the questionable corporation supports for the funding for the Apeel Sciences company. So the Apeel product is listed among the best funded synthetic biology companies, very strong in the synthetics area. In 2018, Food Navigator was informed by founder and CEO Dr. James Rogers, a World Economic Forum young global leader, that Apeel would soon use synthetic biology instead of extracting its ingredients from agricultural byproducts, the simple fatty acids from whole foods, the mono and diglycerides. On the Apeel blog, Jennifer Doudna, inventor of CRISPR-mediated genome editing, has worked with DARPA, another red flag, on using CRISPR as a biological weapon. Shock. If that doesn't shock you, I don't know. That did it for me. I thought, that's it. I don't care if it's food derived. If a company like this or governmental or secret organizations are funding this company, then thank you, but no thank you. So CRISPR is CRISPR-mediated genome editing involves manipulating changes to DNA, such as gene insertions, deletions, or replacements, in creating genetically modified organisms. They're messing with DNA. Okay, and the research shows that people who consume genetically modified foods are actually damaging their DNA, and possibly, which is what they implicate, is that it could possibly be changing the genetic code in your very DNA as well, because of the side effects of consuming genetically modified organisms. On this channel, I do have a video that explains all about that. So the product Apeel, which is an umbrella term for all those other three formulations, has been supported by Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum. Okay, so Bill Gates has his reputation has fallen greatly, and so he's no longer considered a creditable individual. So a credible individual. So yeah, and the World Economic Forum is also being dismantled because of the horrific acts that they performed. And I hope this doesn't get removed from my channel for saying that. Okay, so here is, in a nutshell, natural versus synthetic versions of the E471. So the natural versions, here's the source, all these food-derived sources, right? And the functions. This is what these natural mono and diglycerides do for you in different products. And they're used in cakes, peanuts, peanut butter, ice cream, etc. And there's more, like I pointed out earlier. But and then there's the synthetic versions, so they take you through all these processes. It involves the direct esterification of glycerol with specific fatty acids under high temperature conditions. And it results in a mixture of mono, di, and triglycerides, which are then separated and purified. Another, chemical process, often via vacuum distillation, to achieve the desired final product. So there's a lot of processes that go on to change the molecular structure of these natural foods. Anytime you change a molecular structure like this, it's going to have health consequences. So they found that the synthetic version helps improve texture, increase the shelf life, and it's used in processed foods, all these different things. So you're going to get different foods that have these glycerides in them But if you stick with the organic foods, then chances are, I'm pretty sure, I mean, because it's not allowed, and nothing synthetic or nothing, genetically modified is allowed in any organic food. So that's why I always direct people to select organic foods so that you can bypass any possibility of these synthetics in your food that will affect your nervous system, your hormonal system, your reproductive system, and your gut environment, which is so important with the communication and to your with back and forth with your brain. There's just this whole cascade effect when you don't take in foods that are meant to be in your body. Okay, and in conclusion, I'm just going to go over the names of the companies that said no, they're not going to sell any produce that has this stuff on their produce, and that would be Natural Grocers Market, the Sprouts Farmers, Costco. They stopped selling the produce treated with Apeel because of the consumer outcry. And a company called Publix and HEB and Central Market. I'm not familiar with those, but that's what they were on the list. Trader Joe's, they no longer source produce treated with Apeel. Good for them. A place called Jimbo's. There's Clark Nutrition, Love Whole Foods, Cafe and Market. I don't know if that's the same as Whole Foods because there's another Whole Foods on the other list. And Fresh Time and Bragg. So these are the companies that said absolutely not. Okay, so the companies that may sell produce treated with Apeel are Whole Foods. They could not get a straight answer when they went and asked them, do you use Apeel on your produce? They would not give them a straight answer. The ALDI, they don't have a policy, but they do source produce from a company called Westpac and Lemon Era that use Apeel. So there goes that. And the Kroger, which are the Fry's chains, they claim produce sold under their own label is not treated with Apeel, but they do also have other brands that do have Apeel coatings, labels on them. And Target, shame on Target. I'm disappointed. Carries produce treated with Apeel, right? Out blatantly admits it. And Walmart, like Kroger, they say they don't use Apeel on any of their own brands or private label produce, but couldn't verify what the other brands they carry have, right? The giant food stores, they do not use Apeel for their private brand products, but do carry produce from other brands treated with Apeel. And I don't ever see any signs anywhere in any of these markets. I usually shop at Target, not Target, at Sprouts and Trader Joe's and Costco. So I'm not getting any Apeel on anything, right? But Walmart, they and Target, people who shop there, and the giant food stores, if they can't tell you if they're not going to stop carrying, these brands treated with Apeel, then what do? You have to stick with the organics. It's the only choice you have. But yeah, it's up to you whether you want to frequent those stores, and support those stores or not. Cub Foods, no disclosable policy, known to sell limes treated with Apeel. So this is the information that these people who go out and ask questions and do their research and report to us, right? Thank goodness for them. So, the last thing is the produce farms that do not use Apeel on any of their produce. So these are the brands, I guess, that produce the produce and send them off to the stores. So these are the names of those farms. And the farms that do use Apeel on their produce, there's a lot of these other ones. Seems to be a lot of avocados that have been treated with the Apeel product. So again, you stick to the organics and you won't have this problem at all. Okay, and these are the scientific references. I do dig deep into the scientific literature and I do cite these studies, and they're here for you to explore. If you're a member of the True Health Mastery Institute, you have access to this document. If not, you have access to the video on my YouTube channel. But if you are interested in becoming a member, then what you can do is just go to my website, holisticchoices.com, and just click on the True Health Mastery Institute link, and it'll take you through it'll explain to you and describe all the perks that you'll get as being a member. It's evolving. My institute is evolving, and so there's going to be exciting things coming up for members and others. But yeah, if you want to be a member and you want to get the insider, references, the scientific research, and just see the proof for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. I always back myself up with the extensive scientific research on different subjects. So anyway, yeah, this is more about my books. It's on my website as well, holisticchoices.com. More information about the healing botanicals and the proper foods to consume and what foodstuffs, to avoid that are damaging your health, kind of thing. So I have an array of books there. They're not redundant. Each one contributes, a different aspect of your knowledge. And then I also have a course, Nutritional Synergy, that matches my Nutritional Synergy book. Okay, so that's what I have for you today, and I hope you'll go out and ask the questions to these corporations. And it's the Apeel Sciences company seems to be the only company out there that is producing the Edipeel, but still, you have to just really corner, the companies that accept produce with this coating on it, and just find out what their positions are, and make sure that you're getting the food-derived glyceride coatings if you choose to buy the foods with coatings on them. And again, if you're buying purely organic, then you won't have to worry about any coatings whatsoever on your foods. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight to the people out there who've been so kind as to keep us company tonight and learn about all these coatings that such a controversy, right? If your only source is a company that is defending their own product, then that's not any kind of information that you need to trust. That's the experience I've had over the years. So you do not want to trust companies that toot their own horn, right? It's got to be scientifically verified by an array of different scientists from all over the world, so that it's all objective, right? Okay, so with that, I will say goodnight to everyone. And don't forget to share and subscribe. Tap that notification bell so that you get notified, every time a new video comes up on my channel. Subscribe to the channel. It's for free. So I'd like to, if you hit the like button, then that puts the video in front of so many other people out there who desperately need this information, or are searching for this information and they don't even know they need it, right? So all these health issues that people have in our civilization, they need the right information, and this is where you'll find it at the True Health Mastery Institute. Again, this is Mary Esther Gilbert, and saying goodnight to you. Bye-bye now.